It's a strange predicament I find myself in, because from a review standpoint, it's almost more interesting to talk about the crap that is Fear the Walking Dead than it is to talk about this melodramatic bullshit. What's up guys, Mason the Brock Anderson here, and this is The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 11, Morning Star. So a lot of this episode was built up to the cliffhanger finale, and because of that, could have been a little bit better. There were parts of it that I did enjoy to a point, but there were also parts where I feel like they were kind of dragging their feet a little bit. I think part of my problem right now with the show is, back in the day, I remember there was a lot of complaints because people felt like the show was getting a little boring because nothing would really happen for a majority of the season, and then you'd have this epic cliffhanger finale that would typically be really good, but people kind of started to get sick of that formula of nothing's happening, there's just a lot of character development until the epic showdown at the end of the season. And that's still happening here, and at the time, I still enjoyed that because I didn't mind the character development. These were fun characters. That's part of the story. You have to care about these characters if you want to see them survive. If you don't have that character development, then you don't connect with them and you don't feel anything when their lives are in danger. I think the problem now is that, first of all, they killed off a lot of the more interesting characters. Some of these characters now are a lot more one note, so there's not as much intrigue in them and there's not as much care for them from me. But also some of the development that they're going through is very melodramatic. You got Eugene talking to this woman on the radio, and then all of a sudden Rosita shows up and she talks to the woman, that scares her away, and then Eugene and Rosita, they just have this moment outside. She offers him the chance to kiss her, but then he's like, oh, but I want to kiss Stephanie instead. That's melodramatic bullshit. For Carol, some of what she's been going through has been interesting because, again, badass Carol wants to get out. She wants to go and murder this woman who killed Henry, but in doing so, she's causing more danger for everybody else. That is an interesting story. But now it's starting to dip into the melodramatic territory where she's just crying a lot. She's crying because she thinks Daryl hates her. She goes and sleeps with King Ezekiel because, I don't know, it's just been a while. Like, that's melodramatic bullshit. Even the story with Gamma in this one kind of gets melodramatic. She comes in, she wants to see her nephew, but then Alden's like, no, she doesn't get to see her because I'm trying to protect him. And I understand that he's frustrated because Gamma was a part of this group, and maybe he still does have his hangups and he doesn't really trust her, but just the reaction to it once again feels melodramatic. So I feel like that's my biggest problem right now, is a lot of these stories where before they were interesting, these characters felt real, they felt like real people just trying to survive. The different dynamics in the group were interesting to see how they were developing, but now we've gotten to a point where unfortunately I'm not as interested in these characters, and now the stories are becoming a lot less interesting as well. So when you get to this big climactic showdown, first of all, it took a long time to get there. There was so much waiting around and talking, but even then I don't feel the same level of that I would normally whenever these characters might die. The only upsetting thing about it would be some of these characters I just enjoy watching their performances, and so if they did get killed, I'd be a little sad that I wouldn't get to see them again in the show. But that's about it. There's not an actual connection anymore. I don't feel like these are real people that I'm connecting to anymore, and that's what the show used to do so very well. As far as the final showdown itself, it's fairly interesting. When the walkers first show up, I did kind of think, it's a big herd of them. There's definitely a lot, which is intimidating, but they have a good setup. It feels like they should be able to hold them off for the most part. What really helps is the fact that the more you kill as they're up against the fence, it almost becomes like its own barrier in itself. So I wasn't really sure how this was supposed to work, and then all of a sudden they start shooting off these little balls of whatever. You're like, what is that? And then all of a sudden we realize it's some sort of gasoline. I will say it's a little weird that they just have this. I guess we did see that they have some supplies. You know, the sticks of dynamite were in the cave, so maybe they just found some of this other stuff. But it's a clever plan. It does add an extra element that does make this whole situation more deadly for them. So on that, it is clever. I do hate the fact, though, that we're ending with a bit of a cliffhanger. I hope we don't go somewhere else in the next episode. I hope we see where this story goes, because if not, it's just going to feel like, guys, sit in suspense for a week. And thankfully, since I'm watching on Netflix, I'm just doing these back to back. I don't have to wait a week anymore. The one other thing that I did want to mention is Negan, because we only have a couple scenes with him. There's one where he's talking to Alpha and he mentions maybe it would be better to try to get them to surrender and join our cause. For me, this kind of points to the idea that he's not actually there to help them. He does still put on this act at the end whenever they're shooting the flaming arrows. He's like, wait, I thought they were going to join us. And she flips it. She's like, they will in our horde. His reaction, I think, is just to basically stay on Alpha's good side. But the fact that he suggested, hey, try to get them to surrender, to me screams he's not actually there to help. Because he knows these people. Not only did he live among them for a while, he went up against them before. He knows they're not just going to surrender. So I feel like that suggestion, it's almost like him trying to convince Alpha to not go full force at them and give them a chance to fight back. So I still don't really know what his long-term goal is, but that little scene to me, I think that was a little hint as far as where his true allegiances lie. He's not really on board with these Whisperers. So I don't really know if he has a plan, if there's something he's going to do to help our main characters out of this situation. But anyway, just that little scene, I found it kind of interesting. So with all that being said, though, that'll do it for this episode. On to the next one. I'll see you there. And now, episode 12, Walk With Us. Damn! Damn, what an ending. So there's a lot to get through in this episode, because there are several different stories that are all sort of branching out. So unfortunately, it's going to be a lot to try to keep track of all of it. So to kind of take it bit by bit, first of all, I think the least interesting story is we see Magna apparently made her way to Hilltop amongst the Horde. She and Connie, I guess, blended in, but they got split up, so Connie's still out there somewhere. Not too surprised, again, we saw them survive the initial blast in the cave, so it was just a matter of, did they get out, did they get captured? I figured we would find that out. So I'm assuming Connie is still somewhere out there, and we'll probably see her eventually. But that whole conversation between Yumiko, Magna, Yumiko going after Carol because of what happened, I just, again, find that very melodramatic. Even Eugene talking to Carol, once again, very melodramatic. It's just not stories that interest me, unfortunately. So a lot of those, I was just kind of waiting for it to end. The good news is, every other story was fairly interesting. And that's not really been the case for most of this season. Most of the time, there's been one or two stories interesting, and then everything else just feels boring. Every other story outside of that one, there was something interesting about it. The first one, we'll talk about Gamma. The only problem I have with this story is the fact that they all get to this van. She decides to lead the walkers away. It's like, okay, she's sacrificing herself. She then manages to take down all of the walkers before Beta kills her. And the reason I have a problem with this is, before they got in the van, I'm thinking, okay, just start taking them out. Why are you guys not taking out these walkers? I know she's holding a baby, but Kelly, Alden, they should be shooting arrows. They should be stabbing them. But instead they just decide to run away. And the thing is, if they start taking them out one at a time, it would be done easily. The fact that she managed to take all of them out on her own shows they could have easily done that. So I don't know if maybe they're just concerned about the baby, but even so, 2 versus this whole group while one holds the baby is a lot better than just one person going by themselves. And yet one person going by themselves managed to take them all out. So I thought that was a weird sacrifice. I think it would have worked a lot better if she was in the process of taking out some of the walkers or still leading them away when Beta attacked her. But the fact that he attacked her after she had already taken them all out, it just makes it seem like that sacrifice was kind of pointless. But the intrigue here is, first of all, it was kind of a nice moment for Alden to let her hold her nephew. I thought he was being a little ridiculous still in his reaction, because she just fought with you and barely survived with you all. So why do you still not trust her? Why do you still not think she's left that group behind? Because she just would have stayed with them if she was a part of them. And then on top of that, not only do we see Alden show up and manage to take out her walker, which I think was kind of a nice mercy kill, but also she manages to rip Beta's mask. And then another Whisperer comes up and says, "It's you." I don't know what this means, but I am kind of intrigued. What identity is he hiding? And how come the Whisperers know him as something besides Alpha? I mean, we don't even know who this Whisperer was that he killed, so maybe it's just somebody he knew from his past before he met Alpha. But yeah, the fact that he killed this guy to hide that identity, there is some intrigue to that. I don't know what it could possibly be, but I have questions now, and it's got me invested. Next story that was also very interesting is the story with the kids. There is some of that manufactured tension when everybody shows up to where Ezekiel should be with the kids. They're not there, so everybody starts panicking. Turns out Earl managed to get all the kids together. Ezekiel, I guess, got caught up under some rubble, but he's fine. But unfortunately, Earl has been bit by a walker. Now, what makes this interesting, though, is Judith's predicament. Because not only do we see her kill a Whisperer, which then we see her reaction when she realizes she's not killed a walker, she's killed a human. But now, at the end of this, Earl turns. Of course, he somehow manages to miss the part of his brain that would keep him from turning. So, of course, he has to turn so Judith can kill him. That's a little coincidental. But it does add to Judith's story, because we did see in the last episode she was talking to Daryl about, fine, it's just walkers. I can do that. But now that she's killed a human, and now she's killed a walker that was somebody she knew well, I think that's starting to get to her. And for a kid to have to deal with all that, I'm kind of curious to see what they do with her story from here. Because she's way too young to have to deal with all of this. And I think that's what Daryl is hoping to keep her from. But now she's having to deal with it. So I think it's a very good story for her. And I hope they do something interesting with this. And I like the fact that Daryl is there for her. He's almost become Rick in his own way. Like, I know he's not technically her father, but he's basically her father figure now that Rick's off the show. The irony being that Norman Reedus did audition for Rick and they invented Daryl as a character because he was so good and they wanted to keep him. So it is kind of funny that now he is basically taking on the Rick role. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that story goes, but of course the final thing to talk about is Negan and Alpha. Negan getting Lydia. It does seem like he's about to take Alpha to go see her, trying to talk her out of it. I'm very curious to see what his thoughts were in those final moments. It seems like Carol might be the one that let him out of his cage so he could go after Alpha. And so now, of course, here we are. We finally reached the moment where he did what he was supposed to do. And if so, we talk about badass Carol moments. Trusting Negan to get the job done is probably one of the craziest things she's ever done. And I'm sure it's going to turn a lot of people against her. I mean, we saw Aaron when he saw Negan in this episode, how pissed he was. So once people find out what she did, even though Negan does go out there and he does kill Alpha, I don't think people are going to look at Carol with oh, good job, Carol. It's probably going to be met with some backlash. But the scenes between Negan and Alpha are just so interesting, though, because while I don't think Alpha is an interesting character, seeing Negan talk to her and try to talk her out of what she's about to do, it just goes to show who he is beyond all the bravado. I think he does open up a little bit to her to essentially try to reason with her, try to stop her from what she's about to do, even though he knows she's not going to. I almost wonder if he had managed to talk her down, would he still have killed her? Or would he have seen that there is that part of her that she's still willing to listen to that's not completely psychotic? I don't know, there's a lot of interesting questions here, and I don't know if we're going to get all the answers for him, or if we're just supposed to assume, based on what we know about Negan, that he was just always going to do the job because he thought these people were freaks. But of course, with Alpha out of the picture, it does make the Whisperers, in my opinion, less dangerous. Yes, they still have this horde, there are still a lot of walkers, and right now with the group being so fractured and with Hilltop being gone, it does feel like it's going to be tougher for them to survive out there. But the Whisperers as a group, I think, is going to sort of disband. I do wonder where Lydia is as well. Wonder where he hid her, because I just don't think most of them want to live that way. It's just they did because Alpha basically convinced them to. And now that she's gone, sure, some of them will stay, some of the crazier ones, but there will be some that look at it and go, this is not a good way to live. I was only here because I felt like she would kill me if I tried to leave. And of course, Beta might still try to kill people who want to leave, so maybe he'll try to keep the group together. But ultimately, I don't think he has the same, not charisma, I guess leadership potential. He doesn't command people as well, even though he has the strength to. I feel like Alpha had the balance of not just killing people who disagreed with her, but also trying to show favor to people who did follow her. I don't think Beta's going to do that, so people are less likely to want to follow him, even at the risk of their lives. But I hope we do get some answers in the next episode about what did Carol tell Negan? How much of this plan did she work up, or did she just say, hey, go in, get yourself integrated, take her out from the inside? So yeah, a lot of this definitely piqued my interest again, because so far this season, I've just not been that invested. There have been some things that have been interesting, but on the whole of it, I've just kind of been sitting here sort of bored, sort of biding my time. And I will say in that sense, it's been a little bit frustrating because, at least with Fear the Walking Dead, I have something to talk about. I can talk about all the really stupid shit that they do, and all the weird story decisions, and all the times that people miraculously survive walker attacks when they really shouldn't. So with The Walking Dead, I've just not had a whole lot to talk about. Now it feels like I at least have something good to talk about. I'll have something enjoyable to not only theorize, but also talk about some of the stuff that is fun to watch. But anyway, those are all of my thoughts, so with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I love having discussions with people, so whatever your thoughts were, whether you agree or disagree with me, please leave them down below. Obviously, no spoilers. Also, if you did find yourself enjoying this review and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also have a gaming channel as well as a channel where I talk about soccer, so if you want to give those a follow as well, that would be much appreciated. And lastly, if you want to help me improve upon the quality of these channels, I do have a Patreon. All of this is in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.